It is the silence of a woman living behind closed doors with a man who is celebrated by the world, yet feared in the quiet of their shared home. To the world he is kind, successful, charismatic. To her he is a storm behind a calm face, a master of control not through fists, but through glances, through withheld affection, through words sharpened into blades. Each morning she wakes not to greet the sun, but to prepare for battle, a battle with no visible enemy, no clear beginning or end. She walks on eggshells, not from fear of violence, but from fear of vanishing altogether. Her voice, once strong, now trembles. Her dreams, once vivid, now hidden. Her light, dimmed by the shadow of a man who only shines when others are watching. He tells her she is lucky to have him. He rewrites her memories, questions her sanity, and teaches her to doubt her own heart. This is not love. This is a prison built from manipulation, a cage of confusion and guilt. But even in the deepest dark, there is a silence that does bring peace. It is the silence of stillness, the breath between thoughts, the sacred space within where truth cannot be distorted. In this silence, she begins to hear her own voice again, faint but clear. She remembers who she was before the gaslighting, before the isolation, before she was taught to shrink. Strength does not always roar. Sometimes it is the quiet decision to say no more. Sometimes it is the courage to speak when the world believes the lie. Sometimes it is the act of walking away, not from weakness, but from the unshakable knowledge that she deserves peace. Every scar, every tear, every moment of doubt, they become her teachers, not to make her bitter, but to make her aware. Aware of her worth, aware of the life waiting beyond the door. To the woman still trapped, know this, you are not alone. The journey out is not easy, but it begins the moment you remember that you are not the problem. You are the answer. The path of return is not just escape. It is a rebirth, and on the other side of the door there is light. There is freedom, there is you. There is a silence that exists in homes all around us, but it's not the kind that brings peace. It's the kind that weighs heavily on the chest, like a stone that cannot be lifted. A woman wakes up each morning beside a man the world admires. He smiles in public, shakes hands confidently, shares stories with charm and ease. People adore him. They speak highly of him. They say she's lucky. But behind closed doors, luck has nothing to do with it. Behind closed doors, she lives in a war zone no one else can see. She doesn't wear bruises. She's not bandaged or limping. And yet, her spirit is injured in ways even she struggles to name. The battles she fights aren't physical. They are emotional, psychological, spiritual. A look that says she's not enough. A sigh of disappointment so subtle no one else would notice. A compliment laced with poison, a question that twists the truth, a moment of affection turned cold in an instant. All weapons carefully wielded to make her question herself. Slowly, methodically, she is trained to feel uncertain in her own skin. At first, it's confusing. He says things like, "I was just joking," when she reacts to a cruel comment. "You're so sensitive." When she voices her discomfort. "You're imagining things." When she notices the patterns. And so she begins to doubt her intuition, which is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a woman. Because once you lose trust in your own inner voice, you become dependent on someone else's version of reality. And his version always centers around him. Over time, the silence between them becomes louder than any fight ever could. She stops bringing things up, stops asking for help, stops expressing herself, And when people ask, "How are things?" she smiles and says, "Good." Not because they are, but because it's easier than trying to explain a kind of pain that has no language. How do you tell someone that your home, the place that's supposed to be your sanctuary, has become the place where you feel most unseen? There's a grief in that, a grief for the relationship she hoped it would be, a grief for the parts of herself she gave away just to keep the peace, a grief for the silence she must carry like a secret, while the world sees only the mask he wears so well. This kind of suffering doesn't show up in hospital records. It doesn't make headlines, but it breaks a woman from the inside out. Not all wounds bleed. Some sit quietly in the soul, unnoticed by others, but deeply felt every single day. She may look fine. She may laugh at the right moments. She may get the kids to school and show up to work. But inside, she is surviving a storm that no one else can see. And yet, even within that storm, even in the heart of that silence, there is still something alive in her. A whisper, a flicker, a knowing that this is not what love is supposed to feel like, that she was not put on this earth to be someone's emotional hostage, that there is something more, something true, waiting for her on the other side of that closed door. She might not feel strong yet, but the fact that she feels the pain means she's still aware, and awareness is the beginning of power. Her soul has not given up on her, even when her voice is shaking, even when she's tired, even when she's convinced she has no fight left. She is still here, and that matters, because being here means she still has a choice. He walks into the room and everyone lights up. People are drawn to him, his charm, his confidence, his ability to say exactly what others want to hear. He tells stories with a smile, gives compliments with perfect timing, and when he looks at someone, they feel seen. Admired even in public, he is magnetic, polished, he appears generous, supportive, deeply attentive. And no one questions it because he plays the part so well. But the truth is, it's not who he is, it's the mask he wears. At home, away from the crowd, the smile fades, the warmth disappears, and the person left behind is someone entirely different. Someone cold, controlling, calculating. A man who needs the spotlight to feel alive and demands control in every interaction. Behind the mask is a narcissist. And for the woman who lives with him, the contrast between who he shows the world and who he really is becomes a private nightmare. She watches him switch roles with ease, kind to strangers, ruthless with her, funny with friends, dismissive when alone. The shift is so seamless that even she starts to question what's real. She wonders if maybe she's the one overreacting. Maybe it is her fault. After all, no one else sees it. Everyone loves him. That's part of the power he holds. Because narcissists don't need to hurt with their hands. They hurt with the gap between what the world sees and what she knows. They weaponize perception, and they do it so well that when she finally does speak up, if she ever does, people might not believe her. But he's such a good guy, they'll say. He talks about how much he adores you. And in those moments, the most damaging part isn't what he's done to her, but how easily others are convinced that none of it could be true. He doesn't raise his voice often. He doesn't have to. He controls through presence, through disappointment, through carefully timed withdrawal. One moment, he's affectionate, offering praise, a kiss, a compliment, and the next, cold and distant, like she's done something wrong but can't quite figure out what. It's punishment without clarity, discipline without explanation, and over time, it trains her to seek his approval at any cost. Because he makes her feel special until he doesn't, he puts her on a pedestal just to knock her off. And that cycle keeps her trapped. She clings to the good moments, even if they're rare, because they feel so real. That's what makes it so confusing. If he were cruel all the time, it would be easier to leave, but he gives just enough to make her stay. And yet she starts to realize something. The charm isn't love, the compliments aren't truth, they're tools. They're tactics. They're carefully placed to maintain control and preserve his image. It's never about connection. It's about domination. She begins to see the mask for what it is, not a reflection of who he is, but a shield to hide the damage he causes. And that realization, that shift in awareness, it changes everything. Because when you see the mask, you can stop blaming yourself. You can stop trying to make sense of the chaos by fixing yourself. You can stop thinking you're broken for not being able to reach him. He's not lost. He's not confused. He's choosing the role he plays. And now, so can she. She doesn't need to perform anymore. She doesn't need to beg for the version of him the world sees. Because real love doesn't wear a mask. Real love doesn't need an audience. In the beginning, she still knows who she is. She has opinions, preferences, quirks that make her laugh at herself. She wears what she likes, speaks her mind, texts her friends back without second guessing it. There's a lightness to her, a confidence, even if it's quiet. She hasn't forgotten what it feels like to be at home within herself. But it doesn't take long before that feeling starts to slip away. It's subtle at first. He makes small comments, just little things about what she's wearing, how she talks, who she spends time with. That color doesn't really suit you. Are you always going to talk that much? She's not a good influence, don't you think? Nothing direct, nothing cruel, just suggestions like he's helping, like he sees something she doesn't, and because she loves him, she listens. She changes the shirt, she keeps her thoughts to herself at dinner, she stops texting her friend as often. And with every adjustment, she thinks maybe things will be smoother. Maybe this is what compromise looks like. Maybe this is what it takes to make a relationship work, but it doesn't stop there. He doesn't just want her love. He wants her loyalty, her identity, her reflection to validate his. So he keeps chipping away. One remark turns into a pattern. One correction becomes a constant undercurrent. She starts second, guessing everything. Should she tell that joke? Should she share her idea? Is it okay to laugh loudly in a group? Will it make him pull away again, go cold, punish her with silence? She begins to walk through life like someone navigating a room full of invisible tripwires. And the worst part is, she blames herself when she sets one off. Who she was before slowly becomes a memory. Her interests become muted, her voice softer, her needs smaller. She learns how to make herself more palatable, more acceptable, more of what he wants, and less of who she actually is. And at some point, she looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the woman staring back. It's not that she lost herself all at once. It happened day by day, a slow erosion, like water dripping on stone, shaping her to fit his world while convincing her it was all her own idea. That's how narcissism works. It doesn't demand obedience. It seduces it. It twists reality so that the person being diminished thinks it's love. But real love doesn't require you to vanish, and the saddest part is, the people around her may not notice. They might still see a smiling woman, still see a couple that looks perfect from the outside. They don't hear the way he rewrites her memory in private, tells her it didn't happen the way she remembers. They don't see how she shrinks during conversations, how she looks to him for approval before she speaks. They don't know how tired she is from pretending to be okay. She does. She knows. and that knowledge starts to burn. At first, it's just a flicker, a feeling in her gut that something's wrong. But if she listens closely, if she honors that whisper of resistance inside her, she'll realize the truth. She's not broken. She's buried, and buried things can be unearthed. Forgotten parts can be found. She was never meant to be less. She was never meant to disappear.